I'll have to probably cut that out because this is going to be extremely boring. You never know. I might think of something in a minute. I doubt it though. Move it over there. Now, if you know that the tension on your spokes is good, then you should probably always, as you tighten up this end, release the tension a little bit on the other side. On the other side, I sometimes find is that the two spokes, that there's a little bit of tension difference in the spokes, so you should get a tension meter, measure it all up. Costs a lot of money. Some people say you can feel it like that, some people say you can hear it, but I usually just don't worry too much about it. Unless I find that there is one that feels particularly loose, I'll probably tighten it up a little bit more than the other one. So here we go. The idea is to get the rim over a bit this way, so this one here is actually a left-sided one. Seems to be slightly, so I'm going to loosen it a little bit by about a quarter. Feeling okay, it's not doing too much. And tighten the other two up by about a quarter. Because this is the side to which the rim is dished over to, the drive side. The tension on these spokes is a lot higher always than on the other side. Here another one there. It's a very long one from about here to there. So I'll just loosen up that side a bit, tighten up this side a bit. This is one of the new spokes, so it might be the reason that there's not enough tension on the one I put in. Oh. So loosen it, tighten it. That's probably about it. Hardly anything to hear now. Just a little squelch. Yeah. I'll put it slightly tighter on, but we're looking at about 1/4 millimeter here. So this is really going to get a bit anal if you do anything more. Only reason is because I want to move the whole wheel a tiny bit over to the right. Sounds like that's sort of 3/4 of the wheel should be tightened up. from about here. I'll just put a bit more tension on these spokes on this side. I think the whole wheel could probably do with a little bit more tension. It might be that over the years the spokes stretch up a bit and have become slightly loosened. This one here actually feels pretty loose at the moment. I don't want to overdo it, because then I'm going to get a wobble over to this side. This again is one that I replaced, so I'm just going by feel really. First. Something I never do. Seems I'm doing quite a bit of it. Okay. Sometimes if you put too much tension on it, then it will wobble out another part of the rim. So you have to be a bit careful that you're not going to over tension it to make it slightly, to put too much tension on, so that one bit will always tend to wobble out. But with the rear it's always a problem, because you want to get a good tension on it to not to warp when you put your power through it. In front it doesn't probably matter to come that close, but on the rear you probably want to find the right balance between having enough tension on your wheel so that it doesn't warp when you're setting out, and also not so much that it becomes unstable. Okay, so that's a squeak still. This is actually because I can see the valve hole, so I remember that I stopped here just now at this one. So tighten it up a little bit more. That was probably the last of the 3/4 I should be getting. This one turns an awful lot without. This one is close to stripping. Okay. Still looking at less than 0.5 millimeter, but there's off. So there we start. Just going to do single spokes now because this section here is from here to here, so I'll do this one, plus it's nervous on each side. I'm really doing about 1/8 of a turn. It looks more because the spokes are just turning with it first. I'm turning them back. So, just aiming a bit to get all the sound out of it without it developing a warp on the other side. And that means that I'll probably have moved it about that last millimeter or 0.5 millimeter over. So no more sound on the left. I'm just going to pull it off a bit, and I'm just going to check the right side and make sure that there isn't any great big wobble here. So I'm setting this for about 0.5 millimeter, and it isn't touching. Go a bit closer, 1/4 millimeter. So this is here where it moves on. So I just want to make sure and see actually where it is touching. No, I mean the rim isn't actually coming away at this point, so this is a small section of the rim that is slightly wider than the rest of the rim. It could have happened, it's not very well this, that's over there somewhere, so it could have happened maybe hitting a pothole or having some damage to it. So you have to probably be pretty anal to less than 1/4 millimeter on each side to want anything more from this wheel. So last demo, see my tape hasn't gone out for the dishing. I said after lacing the wheel, it's more or less the same principle, only because you're starting from further away, from not having a nearly good wheel already in your hand. The fapping is just multiplied. It takes an enormous amount of time. So probably looking at this here, it maybe makes sense to buy a pre-made wheel and just modify it. So it seems to be a bit more straightforward, and especially if it's a new wheel, you don't get that the spokes have been rusting and that they're breaking. And it should be much easier to modify it. If you insist on keeping your non-standard combinations. So if you're looking to get a 27-inch rim on a cassette or a free hub, then you're wasting your time, because that doesn't exist. But anybody sensible would move to 700. So this one here is just over the lock nut, and this one here, which was slightly overlapping, still looks like slightly overlapping. I'm having a slight problem here. That's where you see I cut another bit out here, because the sometimes the old axle is sticking out a bit too much, and it meant I couldn't reach the lock nut with my setting tool. So this one here is now 1/4 millimeter out of center. So for a wheel that I'm not going to use, I'm going to accept that. About 1/4 millimeter out of true, but again, I don't think that you can wish for anything more.